Is Donald Trump now being pushed back to the negotiating table after the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz failed to deliver results on day one? Is Washington being compelled to pursue a second round of talks in Islamabad as pressure mounts following limited success at sea? Despite deploying more than 10,000 personnel, are ships still managing to move through the Strait of Hormuz without being fully stopped? And with over a dozen warships and multiple aircraft in position, has the US failed to completely seal off the strategic waterway? After imposing a naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump has signaled a possible shift toward renewed diplomatic engagement. The US president indicated that he is considering a second round of negotiations with Iran, according to recent reports. In an interview with the New York Post, Trump stated that discussions with Iran could resume within the next 2 days. He also suggested that the proposed talks may once again take place in Islamabad, based on current indications. However, Trump's remarks appear to differ from earlier statements made in the same interview cycle. Previous reports had indicated that he described the pace of talks with Iran as slow and uncertain. He had also earlier suggested that a second round of negotiations might not be held in Pakistan. According to the New York Post, Trump had even indicated that European countries could host the next phase of discussions. This renewed diplomatic signal comes even as the US continues to enforce its naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. Reports suggest that the blockade, initiated on April 13th, has not yet produced a decisive impact on maritime activity. This is despite the deployment of more than 10,000 US personnel, along with multiple warships and aircraft. US Central Command stated that no vessels successfully transited the strait during the first day of enforcement. CENTCOM said, and I quote, "More than 10,000 US sailors, Marines, and airmen along with over a dozen warships and dozens of aircraft are executing the mission to blockade ships entering and departing Iranian ports." During the first 24 hours, no ships made it past the US blockade, and 6 merchant vessels complied with direction from US forces to turn around to re-enter an Iranian port on the Gulf of Oman. The blockade is being enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal areas, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. US forces are supporting freedom of navigation. 4 vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports, end quote. However, separate reports have suggested that some vessels may have managed to bypass aspects of the blockade despite these claims. Iran strongly condemned the United States as it launched a provocative naval blockade on the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, escalating tensions in one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. Iran's IRGC Quds Force chief boldly declared that both the US and Israel will ultimately return completely empty-handed from their aggressive maneuvers in the region. Brigadier General Esmail Qani's pointed comments were prominently reported by the Iranian state-affiliated outlet Press TV on April 13th, highlighting Tehran's unyielding stance. The US on April 13th officially launched a comprehensive naval blockade aimed specifically at stopping ships from entering or exiting key Iranian ports along the Persian Gulf. However, fresh reports indicated that multiple commercial and cargo ships successfully transited the Strait of Hormuz despite the heavily publicized US blockade efforts. An Iran-linked oil tanker along with several Chinese ships were reportedly able to transit freely amid the ongoing blockade, underscoring potential cracks in the American enforcement. The Quds Force commander said, quote, "The Unified Resistance Front has a powerful and effective presence throughout the region, and is lying in wait for the enemies of humanity. They will pull out of the region without any achievement." Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Esmail Baghaei, has also stepped forward to sharply criticize this controversial move directly on the social media platform known as X. The Iranian foreign ministry spokesman said, quote, "Can an illegal war of choice be won through a revenge of choice against the global economy? Is it ever worthwhile to cut off one's nose to spite one's face?" Unquote. Iran's military has issued a stern warning that any perceived threat directed towards its vital ports would inevitably trigger a much broader and more intense regional response across the area. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, has explicitly stated that no port located in the Persian Gulf or the Sea of Oman would remain secure or operational if its own ports were targeted or hit in any way. Iran's armed forces spokesperson said, quote, "Enemy-affiliated vessels do not and will not have the right to pass through the Strait of Hormuz." Other vessels will be allowed to transit the strait in compliance with the regulations of the Armed Forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Unquote. A Chinese tanker sanctioned by the United States sailed through the Strait of Hormuz on April 14th, marking a striking development amid the new maritime standoff in the Gulf. The vessel passed through Hormuz despite the US-imposed blockade, according to ship tracking data that showed it successfully made the transit out of the Gulf. Reuters made the claim about the vessel Rich Starry, citing tracking data from LSEG, Marine Traffic, and PLR to document the ship's movement through the strategic waterway. According to the same data, the Rich Starry would be the first ship to make it through the strait and exit the Gulf since the blockade began. Notably, both the tanker and its owner, Shanghai Xianrun Shipping Company, Limited, are under US sanctions, making the passage especially politically sensitive. Reuters reported that sanctions on the Chinese Link Company were imposed because of its dealings with Iran, placing the vessel in the wider network of trade restrictions tied to Tehran. The Rich Starry is a medium-range tanker carrying about 250,000 barrels of methanol, according to the shipping data cited in the reports. The vessel loaded that cargo at its last port of call in Hamria in the United Arab Emirates, adding another regional link to the ship's voyage. Reuters also reported that the Chinese-owned tanker has a Chinese crew on board, based on the available vessel data. An Iranian embassy statement described the Rich Starry as a Malawi-flagged tanker, adding another detail to the growing attention around the ship's transit. Iranian embassy in Ghana wrote on X, and I quote, "Breaking, Rich Starry, a Chinese oil tanker sanctioned for shipping Iranian oil, flying the flag of Malawi, a country with no coastline, just sailed through America's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz." The Navy, with its many big beautiful ships, issued repeated warnings. Reportedly, the tanker's captain upgraded to premium to skip the ads. Edit. We're being told the blockade only applies to countries the US isn't afraid of. That list used to be long. It now fits on Trump's McDonald's receipt, delivered by DoorDash. Unquote.
In a world where business never stops, Mint keeps you ahead, any screen, anytime, from studios to the ground.
Mint is doing brilliantly well. It's a well-read page, I would think.
Mint breaks down business, leadership, and lifestyle, boldly, visually, and smartly. From boardrooms to markets, from personal wealth to industry trends, we bring you the insights that matter. What fuels India's biggest CEOs? Ride along and find out. Want to invest like the pros? Learn from India's top market experts. Your money, your future. We make finance simple. Step inside breathtaking homes and the creative minds behind them. India's real estate scene decoded. No jargon, no fluff. Some chase success, others create it. Meet the ones who made the impossible possible. We don't just talk business, we show it. And the world's watching.